Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so glad that you are with us today. I am Lynn Rubenstein, the Executive Director of the Northeast Recycling Council and Program Manager for the Government Recycling Demand Champions Program. With me today is Allie Briggs-Unger, Market Development Program Director for the Association of Plastics Recyclers, APR. Allie will be presenting first about APR's Recycling Demand Champion Program, and then I will present about the new Government Recycling Demand Champion Program. Allie oversees several market development initiatives, including APR's Post-Consumer Recycled Content Certification Program and its Recycling Demand Champions Program. Allie started in the recycling industry in 2004 by sorting recyclables at a 90,000 person event, wow, and later moving into electronics recycling and refurbishment. Prior to her time with APR, she worked with Resource Recycling to produce the Plastics Recycling Conference, the eScrap Conference, and the Resource Recycling Conference. She serves on the board of directors for the Association of Oregon Recyclers and resides in Portland, Oregon with her family. I do want to note that this webinar is being recorded, and I'm going to ask you to use the question box to ask questions. We definitely want to hear them. We will reply to your questions after both Allie and I have presented. In case you're not familiar with this platform, to find the question box, which may not currently be showing on your screen, note in the upper right corner of the window, there's a little orange arrow. And if you click on that, the dashboard will open and you'll see the question box there. And then just type in the question and hit send, and I will see it. A recording of the webinar and the PowerPoint presentations will be available on the Government Recycling Demand Champion website tomorrow. We'll be receiving a follow-up email tomorrow from GoToWebinar that will include a link to those resources. And Allie, with that, please tell us about the Recycling Demand Champions Program. We'll want you to share your screen.
All right, thank you, Lynn. Let's see, can you make me
okay, I can do that.
Presenter?
I will do that, make you a presenter. You are now a presenter.
All right. Can we see my slide now?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well then, thank you so much for allowing me to talk today. I'm excited to share with everyone about the programs, the Recycling Demand Champions Program and the Government Recycling Demand Champions Program. So I'll go ahead and just give a very quick overview of APR, and then I'll launch right in. So let's see. There we go. Okay, so APR is the Association of Plastic Recyclers. We are an international trade association. Our member companies span the entire plastics recycling industry, and we consider ourselves the voice of plastics recycling. Our primary goals as an organization are increasing supply, enhancing quality, expanding demand, and communicating value. And of course, today I will be focusing on the demand bit, as you might have figured out by the title of this webinar. Okay, so the APR Recycling Demand Champions Program. A few years back, there was a perfect storm for the plastics recycling industry. We saw the national sword, where 65% of curbside collected PP was being exported, almost all of bulky rigids. It was a huge blow to the industry. There was a tsunami of virgin resin that was hitting the marketplace at a very low price. And there was a lack of contracts between the reclaimers and their customers. So one major U.S. plastics recycler told us that they had a standing order for 20 trailer loads that was canceled simply because the converter switched to wide spec virgin resin. So it was not a good time for plastic recycling markets. So as I was saying, this supply and demand chain was upside down. There was a high demand for FDA and colorable, but limited supply. And then the flip side, lots of non-FDA and non-colorable, but limited demand. So, of course, APR believes that demand drives value and value drives recycling. And so we really needed to focus on how we were going to work on demand. And the APR Recycling Demand Champions program was the brainchild of Liz Bedard, who I'm sure that most of you know who she is. She is now retired, and I am stepping into her very big shoes to kind of carry this program further. So the central concept behind the Recycling Demand Champions program follows this path. So companies who are committed to plastics recycling use their purchasing power to pull curbside recyclables through the marketplace, which by purchasing products containing PCR, which creates demand, which then funnels money to the reclaimers, who can then invest in more sortation, and ultimately the outcome is more recycling. And if we see more products relying on post-consumer, on PCR, then the stronger that demand will be. So who becomes the demand champion? How does this program actually work? I'm going to talk about the program that applies to private sector companies, and then Lynn is going to follow up talking about how public entities can get involved. I'll also make a note here to say that state recycling organizations are absolutely welcome to participate in the Demand Champion program, but they should contact Lynn directly to get more details. So what do the private sector businesses do to become a champion? It's very, very simple. They sign a commitment letter saying, I commit to identifying PCR items that I'm going to purchase over the next year. Then they go out and they purchase those PCR items. And then at the end of that year, they report to APR on what they purchased. So the types of materials that they are buying can be items containing PCR. It can be then that companies can increase the amount of PCR that they are putting in a current product or application, or they can develop a new product or application for PCR. Really, any use of more PCR is what this program is about. And so, you know, items that are included could be trash bags or mop buckets, trash cans, recycle bins, work in progress products like pallets, collapsible pallets, totes, crates, things like that. But what happens when we see this strong, consistent, reliable demand for PCR is we have a strengthened domestic demand for residential mixed plastics. We're mitigating our reliance on exports, which is helping prevent ocean plastics by stimulating strong North American markets. We're really boosting this circular economy idea for plastics packaging. We're getting more investment to sort materials, which will generate more feedstock for PCR. And then we are seeing more equitable value for that resin itself. Now, the way that APR asks companies to report is pretty straightforward, but we also do this reporting in order to make sure that the companies that are participating in the Demand Champions program are actually using PCR and using more PCR. So they have to tell us the weight and number of the items that they're manufactured and purchased, and the percentage of PCR used in the manufacture of those items. Now, all the data that these demand companies or Demand Champion companies submit to APR is kept confidential, and we happily execute NDAs if the company so wishes. And then at the end of the year, APR consolidates all of the data from all the different champion companies and determines the total market impact. Now, in 2017, there were 10 companies that participated in the Demand Champions program. In 2018, it went up to 20 companies. And then in 2019, it went up to 40 companies. So we're seeing, excellent growth in this program and a lot of adoption in it. I don't have a slide in here that shows the companies that are, demand champions, but it's really all over the industry, and even beyond the plastics recycling industry. There's a laundromat company out of Florida, I believe, that has participated in the program. So here you'll see the impact from 2018. I guess we do have some logos up here, so you can see an example of who our inaugural Demand Champion companies are. So that year, through the Demand Champions program, 6.8 million pounds of PCR was used for Gaylord liners or packaging or slip sheets and trash bags. And the impact of those, you can look at in a number of different ways. There's the greenhouse gas emission savings, there's job creation, and you can imagine it as if all the plastic recyclables from the city the size of Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is about 110,000 people. So that's pretty great. And if you compare that then for 6.8 million pounds of PCR used in the first year to 25.9 million pounds of PCR in 2019, you can just really see how this program is having an impact on demand, a really strong impact on demand. So on domestic demand specifically. So I think that there's a lot of room for this program to grow, and we're so happy to have private sector companies join us and become demand champions. If you go to APR's website, and I believe also most of these materials are in the handouts, but you can see we maintain a directory of products that contain PCR. We have one-page fact sheets about the different programs. You can look at the EPA Recycled Content Benefits Calculator in case you're looking to do some of your own impact analysis and share that with your customers or boards, et cetera. And then the government Demand Champions materials Lynn is going to cover. So I think that I've covered everything for the APR Recycling Demand Champions program. And I just want to reemphasize again that this is open to any private sector business that wants to use more PCR.
Even if you're even laundromats, yes?
Even laundromats.
There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Allie. That was great. So I'm going to make me the presenter now. And the weird just happened, but we won't focus on that. I want to remind people that they should put their questions in the question box. I haven't seen any yet, so we're going to encourage you to do that. Allie also referenced that, which in fact weren't supposed to be here, and for some peculiar reason they're not here, but they are available on the Government Recycling Demand Champion website. And I am also willing to email handouts to people directly. And as a reminder, yes, this is being recorded, and yes, presentations will be posted. So, Allie, thank you so much. And I have the pleasure of introducing you to the Government Recycling Demand Champions program, the companion to this. Background, as you heard, APR Recycling Demand Champions program is working with the private sector, having the goal of increasing the use of post-consumer recycled resin. This program, the Government Recycling Demand Champion program, focuses on closing the loop with government. So it's an old adage, but you know it's true, that in order for the recycling economy to work and be financially sustainable, somebody has to buy when you put it back in the bin. Putting it in the bin doesn't do very much. We need to increase the number of available domestic recyclers and manufacturers using post-consumer recycled content. And that, of course, benefits curbside recycling or drop-off residential recycling programs with the value of end markets, and it's important for jobs and the tax base. Go stuff. With record low prices for virgin, which I'm sure you've heard about, it's becoming even more financially challenging to encourage people like brands and manufacturers to use post-consumer resin because, quite candidly, it's more expensive than virgin. So we need to do our part to send a loud message that we want to buy things with recycled content, and we will. So that's the whole purpose behind the Government Recycling Demand Champions program, to get the public sector active in this, not just the private sector that Ali was noting. So this is a free incentive program to increase government purchase of products with post-consumer recycled resin. I actually have been trying to find a way to say that without all those P's and have not yet succeeded. Our goal is to stimulate and create domestic markets for sustainable plastic industry and recyclables. This is a joint program of Nerc and APR, with Nerc as the lead. So why Nerc? For those that may not know, we are a nonprofit organization, and despite our name, we actually have several national programs, one of which is the State Electronics Challenge, which some of you may also be participating in. It looks to green the life cycle management of electronics, computer equipment, and it includes purchasing of green products, which includes recycled content plastic in computers and monitors and phones. So we were already kind of working on this, but in a narrower sector. Nerc also is an expert in environmentally preferable purchasing. We're, as an organization, 33 years old, and we've always worked on the relationship of recycled content and products to recycling markets. So we're delighted that APR thought us to be an appropriate partner for this. So you may know or may not know that government, but this includes federal, is the single largest purchaser of everything in the United States. What government purchases makes a difference. It sends an incredibly strong signal to the marketplace. And if you're buying recycled, it sends a message to brands that you want products and packaging with post-consumer resin. By committing to these acts, you're also able to send a message to your citizens and constituents who also need to up their game on this front. So we're looking to brands through APR's program to make change. We're looking to you as government entities, and I'll define government in a moment. It's not what you think. Their game, and to send the message. The cost to offer residential recycling programs directly relates to the value of these materials. And we all know that there's been some excruciating changes in that front, and we want you to do your part to turn that around. So how does the program work? A champion, just like in the program that Ali described, says, I'm ready. I'm going to increase my purchase of products with PCR in the following 12 months. We have introduced an advocate level, which is not in the program that Ali manages. And this says, I want to do it. I haven't a clue how to do this, but I'm going to work on it. And over the next 12 months, I'm going to figure it out so that my organization is ready to start purchasing these products a year from now. So who can participate? Any non-federal public sector entity. And I have an extraordinarily loose definition of that. It includes state agencies, departments, municipalities, counties, solid waste districts, libraries. It even can include public utilities. I mean, it's a broad definition. And we also include public and private schools, colleges, and universities. And just last week, we added a different sort of advocate participation for state recycling organizations. And that's got a slightly different angle on it because, quite candidly, we're small, not buying much. It's a relationship to commit to promoting the program to both their public and private sector partners. So, not secret agenda. We want you to sign up. That's the whole point. So, don't want to be secretive here. So there are a lot of products actually out there with post-consumer recycled content. This list is a targeted list for the moment. These are products that we know that government and schools are buying. We know that they are readily available with post-consumer recycled content. And with one exception, we know that they don't cost anymore. So we're highlighting these products because we think they're what you're most likely to buy. An example are plastic drainage pipes, which has another beautiful flowing phrase, certified to AASHTO M294R. These are drainage pipes that would be under roads. They're in detention basins and retention basins. They're underneath things. So that's what this picture is trying to show you, but it's actually underground. There's a storm drain. But these are made out of what you put at the curb. This is literally what they're made out of. And in fact, plastic drainage pipes are the largest user of non-food HDPE plastic. So that's why in that blue bin, that looks like detergent bottles. That's what that is. That's what these pipes rely on. And encouraging the purchase of these pipes also is an incredibly important market driver and signal. So the program offers free technical assistance, support, and training as much or as little as you want. There's a directory of vendors who are offering these products. You get a certificate for participating, and you get recognition, both at events and on websites, and there will also be a blended sustainability report at the end of the reporting period. So this is a screenshot of the vendor page. There's a link to it from the Government Recycling Demand Champion website, as there is from the APR website. So I want to note that this has tabs across the top: work in progress, packaging. I've highlighted government products. So you, those of you who are very attentive, will notice that I got a much longer list of the types of products we're promoting than it's here. This is only 3 columns. This is a list in development. There are certainly more products out there, but you can see that it says, for example, a roll cart is Kettle Creek. It gives you a link to the name of the company, a salesperson, a phone number, and an email address. If you are interested in buying products that aren't on this list, just contact me, and I either know about them or I'm going to find them for you. And as I say, this list is growing, and so it's not a done deal yet. So this is just a sample of what's going to be available. As I said, noted before, with the exception of film bags, APR has been told that these products will be the same price as products with virgin resin. There is an exception for plastic bags. That's a long story, but I'm just being honest. And incredibly outstanding timing. We got our first demand champion, government recycling demand champion this week. The Maryland Department of General Services, incredibly excited about that. We also have an advocate who signed up several months ago from New Hampshire, but our first champion is the Maryland Department of General Services. This is a new program, and this webinar is one of my efforts to get the word out and to seek additional participation. Again, not a subtle hint. So how do you get started? It's 3 really straightforward parts. You sign a commitment letter. If you're a champion, you report annually and you get recognition. So the commitment letter, it's not complicated. Basically, it says, I believe in what you believe, and if you're signing up with the champion one, you say, and I'm going to increase my purchasing. If you're a government advocate, you're going to say, I believe what you're saying, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to work towards doing it. And while I don't have it here, the State Recycling Organization Advocate Pledge says, I believe what you're doing, and I'm going to promote this to my public and private sector purchasers. Then, if you are a champion, so you're purchasing, you're asked to report what you have purchased with post-consumer plastic resin in the previous period. So you'll notice that at the top this is 2021. So the first time you'll be asked to report will be in August, well, a year from August, so a year from now. If you're an advocate, you are not being asked to report. APR will then use this information blended, not pointing the fingers, blended to create a sustainability report. There are a lot of resources on the Government Recycling Demand Champion website. These are all hyperlinks. These will be available both, you can just go to my website and get all this stuff. or in the PDFs, these will be live hyperlinks, and so you can get to it there. Again, as with the vendor list, this is a new program. It's something in progress. If there are things that you think should be here and you're wondering why they aren't, just let me know. We will create them and post them. I had a conversation with somebody earlier today who's sending me a resource that I will be adding to this. So it's growing, and this is also where you'll find the links to the webinars and the recording. So with that, this is the URL for the Government Recycling Demand Champion Program, my contact information. Again, I'm sorry, I don't know why the handouts aren't there, but I do ask that you follow up with me. There's time to ask additional questions. We do have several, I'm delighted to say. And so, Allie, some of them are for you. So I'm up, there she goes. So Allie, actually the first question is for you, and I love this question. It's so simply stated. What's in it for the companies? So Allie, what do they get out of this?
Can you ask, I'm sorry, can you say that again? I didn't hear it.
So for your program, why would a company participate? What's in it for them?
Oh, okay. So that's a great question. I have some notes about that. Let me pull those up so I can share them. And I'll also say, Lynn, I do see the handouts. I suspect that you just don't see the handouts as the organizer.
So can you tell people where they are? Because I don't see it.
For me, they're under a tab called Handouts, underneath the audio area.
Okay, so you need to click on that orange arrow in the same sort of general area where the question box is. Mm-hmm. And then that there's a handout tab.
Yes.
Great, and there's 5 handouts that you can download there. Thank you, Allie.
No problem. Okay, so why would a company become a demand champion? It's free, so it's not that you have to do anything, you don't have to pay anything extra, and you get quite a bit of recognition for it. I think that some companies are motivated by, patriotism, desire to support domestic demand as much as they can. I think that some companies choose to participate because they want to show that they're not, related to that, and they're not exporting, or they're not relying on export markets for plastic recycling. They're, maybe they have their customers really resonate with the ocean plastics message, and so by them saying, we're participating in this recycling demand champion program, we're preventing the export of materials and preventing ocean plastics. And sometimes companies just really want to learn how to use or implement, more PCR usage in their products or their applications. Why else? It's good to just simply make a public commitment to plastics recycling. So it's really a broad variety of reasons that a company might participate, but ultimately it's free and you get good press coverage out of it. So there's not a lot of reasons not to do it.
And it's setting them apart, which is another great reason. Wonderful, thank you. So a few people have commented that my voice is muffled. I apologize for that. Poor Allie heard me go on and on about what's going on in my life. So I'm going to, I am going to post the recording of this webinar, but I'll also re-record it just for mine and make that available as well. Somebody asked, can I give an example of how universities have participated? So this is a brand new program and they haven't. So I'm still working on it. If somebody is from a university, I would love to. I have had several conversations with universities about how they can participate and what sorts of things are they already buying. And so, for example, the University of Colorado has, for several years, had a program where they're working with a vendor in Michigan, yes, Colorado, yes, Michigan, to provide the campus with recycling containers, so roll-off containers that might be outside the building as well as containers inside their buildings. They have very high post-consumer recycled content. And so they promote that and they encourage their students, in fact, to buy these products. I've had conversations with people who are interested in uniforms. And yes, there are uniforms in post-consumer recycled content, and we're working on getting specifications for that, and then we will add that to the list. Certainly, they're buying electronics. I had a conversation with the Maryland Purchasing Department who told me, don't forget about in custodial areas, the floor mats tend to be 100% post-consumer recycled content. So there's a lot of ways that universities may already be doing this, but it may be unintentional, or they may just not know that there are opportunities that for the same products with recycled content. So follow up, join, and act is what I have to say. Let's see. How many municipalities are already using recycled content don't know it? Well, I would say the vast majority of them, there are products that you simply always have post-consumer recycled content in it, and people just don't realize it. And so it's true that some of the education that needs to happen is, you're already doing this. Let's do this intentionally. As the questioner used the word, let's celebrate what you're doing and highlight it to your community and to your perhaps management as well. Let's see. One person said, is there a charge? So, Allie, is there a charge for your program?
Nope, it is no cost.
And the same is true for the government one, no charge. So basically, we're bribing you with recognition. Let's see. There's more questions coming in, so I get a little. So does minimum content laws impact these demand programs? So that's a great question. And the truth is there are almost no minimum content laws out there. There are requirements that government entities purchase products with post-consumer recycled content, but almost no laws that require that certain products that are sold into a state have post-consumer recycled content. And that gives me a chance to tell you that on September 24th, Nerc is hosting a webinar on exactly that topic, on laws that have minimum recycled content requirements. You can find out about that on the Nerc website or contact me. The multitudes of executive orders and regulations and laws that direct states and municipalities to purchase products with recycled content are very, very widely ignored / unknown. They are almost never enforced. They're old. They happened years ago, and there just isn't enforcement. So were they to be enforced, were the regulating community to know about it? Yeah, I do think it would make a big difference, but they don't know about it. And yes, California is one of the people who's going to be talking on the webinar.
Yeah, so, can I build on that for a second, Lynn?
Please.
So this is not related to regulation, but I want to give an example of a success story from the Demand Champions program. There was inadequate demand for injection PCR, and it was causing domestic bulky rigid recycling to completely break down. So then Waste Management began requiring a 10% residential injection grade PCR in their curbside collection cars. And at the end of the day, when that finally came to be, the result was a resurgence of domestic bulky rigid recycling. So a 10% PCR minimum commitment made the difference.
That's a great example. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody asked a question about the quality of plastics with post-consumer recycled content. Is there a difference? I mean, perhaps years ago it wasn't quite as good as virgin. Does it still suffer from that truth, or are they the same basically?
I think that if you put out your spec sheets and what you're looking for in a resin and what the application is going to be, then you are going to get provided with a resin that is going to be functionally the same as virgin.
Yeah, and so you mentioned specifications. That's very important, and something we are offering as a resource. But it's true, the quality of post-consumer resins have improved. overall. Well, here's a question that we can tell you you're wrong. I've heard that companies are reluctant to promote PCR on packaging because consumers view this negatively. Is consumer thinking changing? So, Allie, do you want to talk about the recent report from the Recycling Partnership on exactly this point, or should I hit on it?
I am not familiar with this, so I would ask for you to do it.
Okay, so really recently, like within the past week, the Recycling Partnership published a study, in the form of a report, but they did a national survey about human beings' interest and willingness to buy products with post-consumer content, whether it's plastic or paper or glass. And overwhelmingly, it was more than 75% of people not only said that's what they wanted, they said they expected it and thought it was already in there. So, and I've heard from others that there is, not among us in the community, but the lay public sometimes sees that chasing arrows as saying, oh, this has recycled content in it. So, yes, there does seem to be a true desire to buy these things. And I think a lot of the brands are starting to realize that, and thus we see some of the brand commitments to increase the recycled content in their packaging and products. So yes, I do think it's turned around. Allie, do you have anything?
Yeah, and I would say that resonates too with the reason that these our Demand Champions program focus on post-consumer resin and not post-industrial or pre-consumer is because when everyday people think about recycled content, they're not thinking about like the trimming from widgets. They're thinking about the outcomes of their participation in a recycling program, either at their curb or their drop-off.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's good. So for a purchasing official, we have a great question that, Allie, I'm going to turn to you. Can you clarify that the program verifies that Nerc PCR resin is in the products the buyers are purchasing?
The question is, can we confirm that the products in our directory indeed contain PCR?
Yeah, and I think it's actually a broader question, an act of faith. There's that, but also if somebody buys a product with post-consumer resin, is there any reason to believe it?
Okay, so I mean, if you're a demand champion company and you are, the guidance I would give is to say, if you are sourcing PCR for your products, then I would make sure that you go find some certified PCR. And APR runs a PCR certification program where we have third-party certification companies that go in and conduct an audit and certify that the pellet, the regrind, the flake is indeed post-consumer. And then APR on our website has a directory of all of the certified PCR that's available. So I think that if you are looking for a source of PCR and want to feel confident that your PCR is indeed post-consumer resin, then you can start there.
Right, and also there are third-party organizations with different programs that will certify recycled content. And there is a list on the Government Recycling Demand Champion website, and that's on that slide I just showed you, that has links to those programs. So that word specifications, that's critical. So yeah, yes, hopefully the answer is as plain. And of course you can trust them, but the purchaser, you can require something with a third-party certification that they can verify that there was an APR certified resin used, or that the product or packaging received third-party certification that that object itself has post-consumer resin in it. But it's it's an important point, and it's one that is getting a lot more attention, as well it should. Yeah. So a couple more questions. One is, That's great. There's so many questions. I have to scroll now. So somebody else like to just clarify the distinction between a champion and an advocate. So a champion is perhaps somebody who's already doing this and knows it. To the point that was made earlier, you know, how many communities are actually buying stuff with post-consumer recycled resin and just having a clue. So so it's an organization that says, I am going to increase my purchasing activity with recycled content. So it may be that they didn't realize they were ever doing it, and so it's a brand new venture, or they might have known they were doing it and they commit to increasing that. An advocate, somebody who would like to do that, but doesn't know how. They don't know how to find out what the products are. They don't know who their purchasing agent is. They don't know what the rules are. They don't know what the cost problems are. They don't know if there's any state laws. They just really don't know how to get started. And so that's somebody who says, you know what, I want to do this. I'm not ready. Help me. And so that's the intended distinction. Now, for a state recycling organization or for a community nonprofit organization, for example, Ellie's going to be surprised that I'm saying that. That's a question. What I would say is that you would sign up as a different sort of advocate. You are an advocate who agrees to help promote the program, get the word out about increased purchase of products with post-consumer content, helping put webinars out there, let their members know about it. So it's an expression of support for the concept and a willingness to help us get the word out. Let's see. Are we considering how to tie Demand Champion to buy recycled, the work the foundation is working on? Could After clarify that question for me, please? Which foundation are you referring to?
So I believe it's referring to the Foundation for Plastic Recycling, which is the kind of philanthropic arm of APR, and it's just working, just getting started on a buy recycled campaign. But I am not up to speed on that program, so I can't speak to the nature of it. But I can definitely be open to linking together these programs. Makes lots of sense.
Great. Let's see. Yes, he agrees. There should be a linkage. I think I covered the questions. There's an opportunity to post a couple more if anybody wants. So I will slowly say thank you both to Allie for her presentation as well as her great support to me through the development and delivery of this program. We know that we will be hosting this introductory webinar, hopefully with better sound, in September and November. We haven't picked those dates, but we expect to in the near future. As I noted earlier, I'm always happy to do a webinar upon request, to have phone calls with people, so don't hesitate to reach out about that. And you will receive an email tomorrow with the link to how you get to the recordings and PowerPoint presentation. And with that, I'm going to say thank you so very, very much to the audience and for your great questions. And I look forward to joining the program. And I'll say good afternoon and goodbye.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Alrighty.